lightning struck twice here, first time when I was 18 and now when I'm, 29.
Hello and welcome to the Awardist. I'm Kristen Baldwin from Entertainment Weekly, and I'm thrilled to be joined by the star and co-executive producer of Cobra Kai, William Zabka. Welcome, William, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Kristen. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you. Now, can we just take a moment to appreciate the fact that you are a legitimate Emmy contender for playing a grown-up version of Johnny Lawrence? Can we just appreciate that?
Yes, the 18-year-old me is, kicking himself on a beach somewhere. It's just the idea of this it's so unbelievable. It really, truly is so unbelievable. Johnny's like, an old friend of mine from childhood. To see him grow up and to get the love and the attention from fans and the critics, it's a dream. It's really, really unbelievable. So, yay, Johnny.
Yay, Johnny.
I thought I was doing the right thing, but I failed you.
The truth is, you got soft and we paid the price.
You want Cobra Kai? It's yours.
If someone had told you 10 years ago even that you'd be reprising this role and that it would be so successful, what would you have said?
I would have never believed it in a million years. Yeah. I mean, when they pitched me the show, I was coming out of like this deep sleep. The Johnny in me was slowly waking up. Took a long time to poke the bear to make this happen.
Well, yeah, so I want to talk about season 3. There's so much great stuff to talk about. But first, I just want to go back to the beginning a little bit. So before John Hurwitz, Josh Heald, and Hayden Schlossberg came to pitch you the idea for Cobra Kai, had you heard other pitches for a Karate Kid revival? Had other people tried to get something like this going?
I think there's been nothing like what Ralph would get. Ralph would get full-on Karate Kid pitches. I would get versions of Johnny. I even played around with that in a music video I directed called Sweep the Leg back in 2008. And, there was something stirring in me that wasn't finished with Johnny. I felt that it was somewhere in the out there in the universe, there was more Cobra Kai to come. But yeah, there were a few ideas. I had friends that came, how about this? How about that? And it took the magic bullet. It took the right everything lined up for this. The right writers, the right timing for streaming media, for, the Sony lineup. Everything just kind of clicked and made sense. So it's lightning struck twice here, first time when I was 18 and now when I'm, 29.
I didn't even miss a beat there. That's exactly right.
Right.
But was there a period of time when you were like, I want to distance myself from this character?
Sure. I think not consciously. I think sure. I mean, as an artist, you want to move on. You want to do new things, but there was never any animosity towards what Johnny or Karate Kid. It was only been a blessing for my career. It's just been like, the origins of everything. So, but yeah, I think, I played a lot of similar type characters. The 80s, I was kind of the quintessential bad guy. I was, that's how I was kind of defined. And most of my roles came out of that, in my subsequent career and all that. So, but I never consciously pushed away from it. If anything, I would embrace it. But I always wanted to do something different and new. And that's why Cobra Kai, to do it right, was so important. Because if I went back and played, a version of him when he's 18, a kind of more, unredeemed character, except for at the very ending, that wouldn't have been exciting. I didn't want to double down on Johnny's, what I quote unquote dickness, like he had to have a heart, and we had to see him go through a redemption arc. He had to have mud on him. He had to be, so he's really, in a way, playing a brand new character in many ways. He's got 30 years of life and backstory in between then and now. So that's super exciting. If Karate Kid didn't exist, this character could exist easily. It's just, we have the benefit of having Karate Kid as our backstory, which just happens to be a, classic film that everybody knows and loves.
I was looking through some old interviews you did, and even way back in 2009, you were talking about how in the first movie, you saw in the script sort of a glimmer, what you called a glimmer of decency in Johnny in that final moment, the sweep the leg moment. And it really is interesting, like, how important was that glimmer when you were crafting this new character 30 years later?
That's when I read the Karate Kid script. As I was turning the pages, I'm like, I'm never getting this part. I mean, he's a black belt. I didn't know karate. He's a motorcycle gang leader. I don't know how to ride a motorcycle. He's mean and like this. The last thing I did was a milk commercial, maybe an M&M's commercial. They're never going to see me as this gang karate guy, right? But then I get to the end when he's saying sweep the leg, and especially the last note of Karate Kid where Johnny's a good sport, hands him the trophy and says, "You're all right, LaRusso." That's when I'm like, oh, there's Billy. There's the door into Johnny. Now I got to paint backwards and learn everything, learn the karate, learn all that. And it gave me a great license to be as tough and mean and hard as I wanted to be and could be in the Karate Kid, because I knew I was going to land on that note. And that gave me a lot of fulfillment over the years, just knowing, if nothing ever happened after Karate Kid, Johnny landed on his feet. He got choked out in a parking lot. You hope he went off in a good direction and had a good life.
I think one of the real takeaways people had from season 1 is like, you're a great dramatic actor. People had seen you as playing, the bully and all of that, and which is kind of cartoonish, but now you really got to show such depth, and it continues. Do you what is that challenge like in this show? Because it's so funny, but then you have really moving moments too.
Yeah, it's such it's in the writing. First of all, they throw me I read these pages and I'm in tears. I'm like, oh my, talking about his son, and not showing up for his son. And then the comedy, which I just love, but the comedy is, it's not being played for comedy. It's funny. We're witnessing this almost kind of artifact of the 80s stumble through his life and try to pull himself up. And, his disconnect from the internet and disconnect from the modern technology is, I think, refreshing. It's certainly refreshing to play. Yeah. I think it's fun for people to watch, especially those of us that were there with the first Mac LCs and the first phones that came in, and to watch somebody go through that evolution from now, I think is a lot of fun, and it's super fun to play.
Can I get a copy of that? Don't worry, I'll tag you. Tag you, what the hell does that mean? You check your Facebook. I don't have Facebook anymore. I threw my phone away. Oh, it's on your computer too, right? Yeah.
One of the most enjoyable parts of the show is sort of the relationship between Johnny and Daniel. They have this hilarious buddy comedy chemistry, but then they butt heads. Can you talk a little bit about creating that, on-screen dynamic with Ralph? Because it's obviously very different from what you had in the film.
Yeah, sure. First of all, Ralph and I have become friends over the years, and closer since Pat Morita. When he passed away, we reunited at his memorial service. And that was the beginning of Ralph and I becoming reconnected after all the years of us going our different ways. So we've developed a very natural relationship over the years. It's we banter back and forth. We rib each other. We'll do a Comic-Con. We're on the panels. We like to give each other a hard time and one up each other. So the competition in between us and that kind of good nature is already there organically, just between us as friends. But then jumping back into these characters in season 1, when Daniel walks into the dojo and says, I heard you're picking on these kids. And I said, what kids? I didn't hit any kids. I kicked the shit out of a bunch of who deserved it, and it's like the Johnny's point of view. But that moment right there, it was Johnny and Daniel in real life, and he put the character on, I put the character on, and we just felt like, wow, this has some pressure in it. This is chemistry is actual. Not
only are you acting, you're also fighting. You've got these scenes, like we get to see Johnny and Daniel fight together and each other a little bit in season 3. Talk about the training that goes into those fight scenes, because I would imagine it's a lot.
It's a lot in the pre-production. We have about a month or so of getting, stretching out, getting all our, our muscles loose and our hips looser and working out some kinks. But as we film the show, it's just so fast the way we film this. We don't have the luxury of preparing so much. Like in Karate Kid, we had 3 months to train just for the final fight. 3 months, wow. 5 days a week, 4 hours a day, sometimes just preparing. So when we did that, it was like a dance. It was just subconscious. You didn't even think about it. On this show, it's a little bit different. So we have, some of our scenes will have maybe a day or 2 or 3, maybe to pull them together, and then we're thrown in. And, so it's a little more challenging.
So there is an amazing moment in episode 6 where Miguel asked Johnny for some photos to put on his Facebook profile. And Johnny gives them these amazing sort of like beefcake photos from high school. And they are real photos of you from that time in your life. Yes, I need to know sort of everything about this. Was this your idea? Did the producers come to you and say, do you have any, sexy photos from high school? And like, did you have copies of these lying around? Like, how did this all happen?
Yeah, that was in the writing. I read the script and I'm like, okay, beefcake photos from the 80s. So we dug in and found some of these old photo shoots I did. And back in those days, it was funny, you'd be a teen star, you're a teen something, and all these photographers would come out of the woodwork and drag you to a beach, throw oil on you and throw you up against a rock. And next thing you're a poster in somebody's bedroom. Who knew these things would be living this long? Back then, it was just, for a one-page spread and something. So I had them and I pulled them out, and I thought it was really funny. I thought it was really fun.
And so as a performer, what's it like to approach these scenes where there's so much at stake dramatically, but you're also like, this is what fans have been dying to see. So is there pressure, or how do you navigate that?
Yeah, it's a great question. You can't think about it. You can't think of the audience. You can't think of, especially when the show becomes known. When we first did it, it was just, we were doing it and it was this micro experiment, and then everybody's knowing it and they liking it and everything. You have to block that out. Mm-hmm. That you can't have one eye on that. You just have to zoom in on, first of all, it's all in the writing. It's all in the crafting and the plot device of these characters and how it's moving it forward, getting your head around that. And then, you just exhale and just live it. And you can't worry about how people, if we had our eye on, we have to please this demographic or this audience in a way and be conscious to serve that, then we're not being honest. So the key is to just, if material's great and you're ready and, then you just do it. And
just do it.
This is so weird.
You look amazing.
Oh, thank you. So do you. God, when was the last time we saw each other?
I think it was senior year.
Senior year.
My last question, this is very important. I read that you still have Johnny's red leather motorcycle jacket with the patch. Is that true? Do you still have that somewhere? And do you ever wear it?
That's a great question. I do still have it. It's shrunk a little bit, or I got bigger, one of the two, Yes, that was my takeaway. With a few other things from Karate Kid 1. I do have it. It's hanging in my closet, and every now and then I look at it and just think, thanks, man. It's good to have you here still. Yeah.
Well, it's been
very important. That was a very important question, wasn't it?
It's very important. Now I want to know what else you took from season or from the first.
I have a gi from the first Karate Kid, and headband. Ralph got they gave him the 1940s Ford. They gave him the farm. I had to go through and pick through wardrobe and just sneak it out. No, so. Well,
it has been a total joy talking to you as per usual, and congratulations on the season. I can't wait to see season 4. So thanks so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Kristen, always good to see you. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.